I think, it's like I know what I need to do. It's
Right
just
here, brother.
time, bro.
Let me just dive in for a minute there. We can tell ourselves that we need to do all these different things, and like we want to do them at the time, but then we never do them. Why? We act based off how we're feeling in our body. How we're feeling in our body is the result of long-term programming of dominant thought. Dominant thought and beliefs creates like what you feel like doing and what you don't feel like doing. Okay. So instead of going about things in the sense of using this rational mind that we literally use to understand and make a story for ourselves about why we're doing something or why we're not doing something. It's like the lying machine inside of us, literally our rational mind. And we think that by telling ourselves, like our supreme being with this little monkey mind, to do this, that it will be done. When all the programming and all the momentum is going the other way, that's not how it happens. Okay. What needs to actually be done is working with and programming through auto-suggestion, through immersion into new experiences, reprogramming the subconscious mind with a new perspective about life, with new experiences, like one experience at martial arts class kind of like can revolutionize my whole relationship to the warrior inside of me, where all of a sudden I'll want to be going to the gym every day of the week, and so new experiences can create this, but ultimately it comes down to let's stop creating resistance by being in the mind. This is the key, brother. We kind of hit on this last week, but like this is going to be the thing for this week, is the more disconnected we become from mind and body, and this happens literally by like telling ourselves we should do something, not feeling like doing it, getting harsher in our thoughts, or like more apathetic in our thoughts, then we're still not doing it. We're creating more separation in our being. We're doing that the whole time that we're like going with things head on like that. What needs to be done is a subtle weave of alchemy. Basically, is like, okay, today I'm committing to the container of, just free form expression for 30 minutes with this medium, whether it's a camera, a pen and paper. What we need to do is think about how do we create the state of feeling inside of us where that will flow out of us naturally. It'll still take effort to start, but we need to create the feeling where that is the consequence. Okay. We need to start thinking about the causes. Like, think about the last time that you felt really good and vibing. Like you felt a lot of like self-confidence. You kind of had the jazz or mojo. Maybe it was like you landed a new client and you went and had some epic interactions with people at the gym. I don't know. I don't know how often like those experiences cross your path, right? But basically, brother, it's like think about times where creating was easy for you. Think about times where like you were kind of in the flow. You weren't facing all this resistance in life. And when we're in a place where we're facing a lot of resistance, right? Also, like we need a lot of different changes to go down in our life, and we're feeling stagnant, and we're feeling so blocked from by ourselves, like literally the inability to take a single step forward at times for long periods of time. We need to understand two things, first of all. First one is the greater our war with resistance is the greater our power and potential, literally. Like our resistance is equal and opposite to our own life force. B is like that kind of resistance is caused from separation and lack of momentum and embodiment. So instead of like going to do these things, like create a video or create a business and all these different like things that are really like intrinsically motivated, right? And there's an art form to it. What we actually need to do is just get into an embodied momentum and rhythm in life. Meaning like for me, if I'm feeling really blocked to like make videos, the inspiration energy isn't here for that. I'm not going to force it. What I'm going to do is align to that intention, right? So that looks like maybe like throw on some good music, dance around and clean up my house, right? And then like you know, drive out to the park and go for a walk and like toss some knives and stuff. Breathe with the sun, like give thanks, right? And then all of a sudden I'll feel my energy shift into a state where it's like, I'm in a place where I'm more clear now, where I'm feeling like I'm just in motion. I am in motion. That's the thing, brother. We get in trances, okay? So a state of resistance where we feel like literally shut down, right? To any type of action. That state of resistance is a trance. We're always trancing out. And the trance is just a frequency. It's a disharmonious frequency where your mind is like vibrating up here, and your body's vibrating over here, and your heart's vibrating over here. And it's just a frequency, but it's disharmonious, right? What we need to do is break the trance. Instead of trying to think your way to action, right? Break the trance and like shake your body or something, you know? Like go do something with your hands where we can like turn off our mind for a little bit, wash some dishes, right? Like, you know, make your bed, go for a walk, feed the dog, right? Make a phone call you gotta make in motion. Go do some things, especially if you have little hobbies you enjoy. Like I have my art easel stand just right in the center of my living room. You know, it's if I'm feeling like blocked, just pick up the damn paintbrush and just like do something, you know? Basically, find a way to get yourself in gear. You know what I mean? And like just by being in gear, then the resistance will start to fade because we're in an embodied place. Like our mind and our body are in unison, you know? Like after the gym, isn't it easier to take little horizontal actions? Do you find?
That's such a good way to say it. Get in gear, because when your thoughts block your gears in the sense of overthinking. So getting out of
Yes.
the thought realm gets your gears going, and that produces some sort of magic. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start in terms of the archetypes. So we have the magician over here on the west, and that's thinking and knowing. Okay. We have the lover over here, and that's being. That's like feeling, right? And we have the warrior at the south, the king at the north. Okay. Trying to access the king, the sovereign ruler of ourselves. Okay. To access the king, what we need to do is already have a strong magi. He's a little bit warped. We gotta progress him and cultivate him into like the true magi, right? But that happens through balancing other archetypes. So if you're in the magi loves thinking about systems, you know? And he also like is like connected to thoughts and thinking and ideas, right? And the thing is the magi doesn't make action though. He doesn't move. The warrior moves. Okay. So what element are you working with? If you're working with air element and you're trying to like, and it's time to do a practice that we had talked about implementing, you're coming at it wrong. We got to get into the earth element, get into our body, do some simple ass shit. Cause like really, if we remove the mind, like fucking writing on a piece of paper for 15 minutes or like speaking or doing, it's so easy. Like it's literally so easy. Let's like consider a paradigm without all of this ego mess we got going on right here. Just imagine like what I do like right now is a 15-minute practice of some kind. Cool. You know? But the thing is like our minds are weaved into so many knots, right? And we cannot use the mind to solve the problem. We have to use the body. We have to use like the expression of our being. So to stop overthinking, to stop resistance, right? It is to set the intention and know what you want to do, right? Maybe like trigger your fears around it. We can talk about that in a second. But ultimately to set the intention of what practice you want to do. Like today, you know, what's the container I want to create for myself to step into, right? And we're gonna like start breathing into our body and just like find peace inside of us. You know, maybe get into motion, get into gear. And like honestly, how I snap out of resistant patterns is to access a really strong warrior. In the warrior, in the sense of like, fuck this shit, dude. I'm done living this way. I'm like done with these patterns. Like I know my potential. I know that I don't want to be in this place anymore, in this war, right? So I access my warrior, and like the warrior is aggressive. He can be fueled by righteous anger, like even out himself, and or he can be fueled by like, just like, this is the vision, this is the mission, let me get on board. So much change can happen. There's a revelation of the warrior inside of you. And I do have some practices about the attitude of the archetype, the attitude of the warrior. What does the warrior attitude look like? And by accessing the warrior, by getting in gear physically, right? And the attitude is like I know what I need to do. I know how I'm going to do it. I know what I want. I know how I'm going to get it. The warrior is so clear because it's just like, he's very simple in his values. This is right. This is wrong. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do, because the warrior is all about effective action and execution and alertness, like the warrior has a relationship to what happens if he fails, which is dying, like the warrior doesn't fail. There's not even there's not a doubt about failure in his mind,
Right.
And we can work with that archetype, in the gym. We can do practices like sprint staring at a wall with all intensity in your being, in your body, how much power can you just move through you in your direct focus towards a single point. It's that's a practice. My whole workouts, usually I try to really access this attitude of forward leaning energy, of just really just vigor in my body, intensity. And it's like a warrior energy. The thing is doing embodied practices. Okay. So doing embodied practices with the warrior, that looks like, maybe it's like cleaning your house like a warrior. The warrior's not thinking about God and peeling potatoes. The warrior is peeling the damn potatoes in excellence. He's just and that is the warrior worshiping God. The warrior is cleaning the dish, and he's not thinking outside of he's cleaning the dish, really fucking well and getting into it. The warrior engages with things he does fully because it's death if he doesn't, everything is you catch what I mean here. So embodied practices with the warrior might help you get in, and when you catch yourself overthinking in a resistant state, the more loud thoughts that we start thinking in resistance, the less willpower and energy we have. We're actually creating bigger rifts inside of us. So when resistance strikes, basically by feeding resistance, by continuing to tell ourselves to do something and trying to use willpower and all these different things, what we're doing is that we're actually creating more resistance inside of us, right? The subtle approach is right. The moment we face resistance, it's to drop the trance we're in. Drop the trance, because that trance only grows the longer we hold. The longer we hold resistance in our mind and being, this thing that really doesn't exist except in our own fucked up, tied up world, right? The moment we can just let that go, get back into breathing and ease, and get our body in gear and just do it without thought. That's kind of the key that I'm just trying to get to in that part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that actually hits on exactly what I wanted to talk about, was habits. Because, for example, the first time that we were talking about me figuring out a definite chief aim, I was all about it. I went through it for a couple days, hardcore affirmations,
James Allen talks about that's really profound. And that's the pleasure consciousness versus execution consciousness. And they cannot coexist simultaneously. It's basically feminine versus masculine polarities inside of us. Okay. So the feminine is oh, how am I feeling right now? The birds are chirping. Oh, the baby's crying. Let me go get that. Oh, I don't really feel like doing this anymore, so I'm going to go outside and do this now. And so if we're trying, we can be in our feminine. We can be in that feminine polarity in that consciousness. That's completely cool. But we can temper the indulgences for sure. On the other side of things, though, that I find really true is that equal happiness, in fact, deeper happiness, is bestowed by doing something fucking well. And like James Allen talks about it, the execution of your duty consciousness versus pleasure consciousness. And pleasure consciousness is more so like me, how I'm feeling, how the world's feeling. Duty consciousness is more so like, this is God's will for me. Like, let me go do this. And like, you know, after maybe you were assigned a project or something that like took 2 hours, it was creatively demanding of some sense. Like after doing it, you feel great. Like, you know, that last hour of it, you didn't think about any kinds of like indulgences, right? And
Right.
you know, think about times in your life where you've gone for long stints of time, maybe even playing video games, like is a good example. Sometimes people can play video games for 8 hours without even thinking about like, you know, like food or like drugs or sex or any, they're just so engaged with. And this is going to be our implementation for this week. We've been building up a lot of potential energy.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted you to know that
building up a lot of,
with video games, it's literally a drug. I look at it as a dopamine kick.
yeah.
So when I want to, when I'm feeling resistance, I'll go to it for a hit of energy, and then I'll end up doing it for 30 minutes, and then I'll get off of it. You know what I mean? So it's like a little crutch. It's like a little fucking crutch. Is what it is.
But yo, here's the thing. I know, but here's the thing. Is doing a creative task in this video game of life to level up your character's, like, you know, rank so you can prestige into like his god stuff, right? That's the game going on down here.
Right.
And basically we need to create a consciousness. We need to create an understanding, a new belief that is coupled with affirmation through experience, okay? About, yo, your creative task can be just as a drug, just as like even the worst thing, you know, like pain and pleasure, good and bad, what people get off to, it's so relative to them. And here's the thing about alchemy is like, I start gaming life and understanding that like I need to reframe how I'm thinking about these actions that I want to take. I need to sell them to myself. I need to like, you know what I mean? Create the same level of like, it's hard for you to stop doing something. You know, people get addicted to going to the gym. People get addicted to feeding their dogs bananas. People get addicted to, you know, like writing. People get addicted to, I get thinking about philosophy. And for others, for someone else, that might be the biggest burden in the world.
Oh, that's a big one. I love
so
that.
Like, yeah, we're gaming life down here, brother. Yeah. And, you know, all of this kind of like couples together is like this war of resistance we got going on. And then we have like, you know, how do we reframe and reprogram our subconscious mind so that the feeling naturally arises to do that which we want to do, right? And there's a level of alignment that must occur. And, you know, there's two different like attacks, avenues I can see right now for where you're standing. And I want to receive a lot more of your side right after this. But like the two avenues of attack based off, you know, last 4 sessions that I'm really seeing that need to be implemented is first, you say you're good at surrender, right? But I mean, this is the path of peace. It's practices that engage our breathing and stillness and observation of the thoughts. Like when we can let ideas go and let the and watch the feelings wash away, you know. So we can sit in between all these poles of attachments and observe, just like breathing in peace and realizing like when we actually hit a state of peace, everything's easy. We feel so good because we're in alignment. We're in fact in alignment finally. And so in like practicing peace is just like a practice, right? Practicing peace where we're not in our mind. You know, identification with the mind is what creates resistance in our thoughts. Because resistance can't exist if it has nothing to oppose. If I'm just observing my thoughts, they're just like, I don't have a reaction. I don't need to do anything. I'm pure consciousness right now. When I'm practicing stillness, when I'm practicing Shiva, which is literally just transformation, you know? And then on the other side is practices,
there's no programs running. Yeah.
Well, the programs are running, but you are no longer it's like you're watching them outside the car window. You know, like just like realizing that we're the stillness behind it all, that like we're always here, we're always observing, but then we get tangled up into a thought because it carries a lot of attachments and resistance and emotionality behind it, or we get carried up in and we get lost in the world. All these things are of the ma, they're of the mother, they're of the illusion. Anything that's changing, like your thoughts, like what you want to do. One day it might be like, oh, I'm here to write a book. Oh, I'm here to be a coach the next day. The next day it's like, oh, I want to have a family and an intimate, it's like our thoughts and like, our outlook is in constant flux, right? It's okay. But finding the thing that doesn't change is masculine. And that's just finding, what is my like presence like? What is my natural being, my deepest essence right here and now that's always there, that is always true, and it's stillness, it's emptiness. And this is going to be one of the most important pulls for transmutation of resistance, is realizing the watcher. That just automatically creates the room for the, because Shiva, the watcher, the observer, the empty self is the destroyer. Okay? So if we need to destroy paradigms, if we need to dissolve loops, ties, knots in our ego, we need to access the stillness and let everything dissolve onto it, right? So then we can move in less resistant ways the more we practice it. So just a simple practice of like basically just breathing in reality, just breathing and feeling your body, and like feelings are going to come up like hunger or lust or cravings or wanting to do this, and like just like really observing and laughing at all this shit and understanding it's not you. That's not you. Like you mentioned that you think that you're inherently lazy. That's not you.
Right.
That is a byproduct of a program running. So that practice, and then the practice of a sacred warrior embodiment practices, whether that looks like a martial arts class, whether that looks like going to the gym in the attitude of the warrior, whether that looks like running through the forest as if it's like your life's mission. Running through the forest is your life's mission. And it's basically a practice for like when we're called to go create that project that's kind of hard, we have this pathway, this network built inside of us that we already kind of know how to access. That's like, this is what I want to do. It's going to be hard. I can't wait to fucking do it. This is how I'm going to do it. And just go and do that hour and a half project like you're running through the forest for an hour or doing an hour workout at the gym, because you know how to access the warrior, right? And just by like getting engaged with something, engagement with it becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. The more we do something, the more we want to do it. The more we resist something, the more we need to resist it.
I see what you're saying. So like my magician is I can work on my magician's basically there. My warrior's really there. My lover is not there. So I can't reach the kingsmanship or whatever. So like this is the only disconnect with me with the lover, is that like I've told you, all my life I'm an idealist. Like I'm constantly wanting to think of cool fucking ideas. And that's literally every second of every moment. So like I've programmed myself to constantly need stimulus and constantly need just consumption. And within that, even if I were to, going into that, like, so when I walk my dog, there's an area that I can kind of meditate, but even at the same time, I feel like somebody's watching me, you know what I mean? And I get into worrying about, do I look like a straight freakazoid out here? You know what I mean? Even though I honestly don't give a shit, but like, I'm in my parents' neighborhood, and it's like, I don't want to be that kid that's like, looks fucking weird, you know what I mean?
Brother, you need a change of environment.
I
Just
know.
like
it's
strength.
yeah.
Environment's the fastest way to unlock our DNA. And like just because you have so much paradigms in this place woven all around you, it's gonna be hard, you know?
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
not as conducive environment to facilitate transformation in a sense. But it
Right.
still can be done.
Serendipity.
You know, and you are a Scorpio. You know, you are a Scorpio. It might be your path, honestly. Like this like transcendence from like a place of complete stuckness with no support in the reality to a point of like, okay, I need to give birth to the hero that saves me. It's the only fucking way. You know? And like that's the Phoenix rising. But yeah, just you can go on.